to move on from that, let's talk about the military. Now, I know we can't ask you personal questions about places you went and things that happened, like any specifics, but did you? And I'm sorry to change the mood. It's a
Yeah.
little bit. I
Yeah,
know
no,
that you've got
I'm
a few
gonna.
questions
Yeah,
about the
yeah, I
military, but
do actually.
my question to you is, and you don't have to give specifics in that, but first question is, how long when you're on deployment, did you see any things that
You
you
shouldn't
shouldn't
have
have, like
seen.
death or fighting and stuff?
Yeah, I've seen what I would consider the worst of humanity and the best of humanity. Um,
I've seen.
there's something about war that just makes the worst of people come out. Um, and people are desperate. And when people are desperate, they do things that aren't rational. And
And
so,
and you
go ahead.
consider yourself religious. Can I ask are you born again Christian now, Lavelle? Are you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
So you've always you started becoming more religious during when you were a soldier. You know, when you were deployed to South Korea. Is that what you said? South Korea?
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So don't you think that your faith would have come into question when you went overseas, when you were deployed overseas, and you had to shoot at an enemy that you didn't know? And did you feel a bit, you know, in war, at war with your faith? That
At the
I
time I
just want that.
didn't. I was when you're in the military, you are mentally indoctrinated to follow orders. And if you don't, then you're not a good soldier and you're probably not going to last. And there's really not a lot of room for um, thinking, for lack of a better term. I mean, you do what you're ordered to do. Now, in hindsight, of course, my as my faith grew, then my perspective changed. But it's just one of those things where an enemy is an enemy, and you do what you have to do. Does it feel good? No, it absolutely doesn't feel good. But then you move on to the next mission. There's not a lot of time to just sit back and contemplate.
How long
Uh,
did you spend in Afghanistan? Sorry.
just a year there.
Okay. So looking back, do you think that you wish you had done things differently? You wish you had, I don't know, yeah, you hadn't been a soldier, or you're proud of what you've done or what you did or what you've been?
I'm proud of being a soldier. I'm proud of serving my country.
Yep.
Not proud of everything I did while I was a soldier, because there's so many politics involved in being in the military. So many of the decisions that are made in Washington D.C. They're made at the Pentagon somewhere. They're not made on the battlefield, and so we're out there trying to survive. Um, and so yeah, in hindsight, I wish things could have been differently, but I also wish that policies could change. I wish that
Mm.
politicians had to serve in the military, or else you couldn't be a politician. And I think that the president of the United States should not be commander in chief if they've never served in the military. That's just my opinion, because I don't know how can you manage a military, one of the largest military forces in the world, and you've never been in the military.
And don't you feel a bit betrayed that after spending probably 20 years, the longest war, America's longest war, right, in Afghanistan, and I don't know, after thousands of lives were lost, and after spending apparently America spent $2.5 trillion in Afghanistan, and eventually uh, Taliban took over. And don't you feel a bit betrayed by your government, by the policies of your government? Don't. How do you feel about that? What are your thoughts on that?
I just think that policies and politics are not well aligned with military service. I think that decisions are made not because of military or strategic decisions. They're made because of political reasons. They're made because there are lobbyists who
Mm.
want to see certain laws passed. They're made because there are pharmaceutical companies who dictate what lawmakers are going to do. And so, in my estimation, um, policies should be made based on humanity, not on political structures.
And does it make you
Um,
angry sometimes?
I mean, I get angry when I think about things like, um, it's the common thought is like, that's not even our war. Why are we there? It's not our war to fight. So
That's
those kind of things make me angry because we're losing the lives of young people. You got to
mm,
think about it. When a soldier goes in the military, typically they're 18 years old. They're not even old enough to drink.
That's
mm.
right.
Um, and you
So,
go in and your life is literally on the line for a cause, excuse me, for a cause that you are not even aware of. Um, and so some family, has to bring a body home from overseas over something that maybe wasn't necessary. So those are the things that make me angry, that we're losing lives. And that's not just
mm,
for American military. When I was stationed overseas, I was stationed with soldiers from the United Armed Forces. So they came from different countries. And so everybody can relate to that. Every person who has had somebody in the military in any country can think about the possibility of that person never coming home. And
wow.
so, um, unfortunately, we just don't make decisions based on what makes sense. We make decisions based on the pressure that's put on decision makers.
So, which leads me to the next question, which is like two questions in one. Uh, did you lose some close friends? And if you did, coming out of the army and deployment, how were you mentally?
Yeah, I did lose one close friend. There was a guy. He was now. This is interesting because he was a white guy from Los Angeles who, when I grew up, um, having friends of different races wasn't really a thing in my community. It
Okay.
was blacks had black friends, white has white friends. We had a few, but it just wasn't widespread.
Yeah.
And so this guy was. We found out that we were born on the same day, the same year, in the same hospital in California, and we weren't overseas very long, and he was killed in combat. We called him Light Bulb. He had some really big ears that stood out, and so he looked like a light bulb to us. And he was unfortunately killed in combat, and
Sorry.
that that was difficult to deal with. Even after I got out, there were some of my unit that had gotten called back, and some of them didn't make it back. So it's difficult. Every year, like Veterans Day comes around on Memorial Day, and I'm always making posts. If you go back on my Facebook posts, you'll see that I'm saying to people that you don't say Happy Memorial Day, because there's nothing happy about Memorial Day. Um, it's somber. I mean, people have lost their lives, given their lives um, for freedom across the globe. And I think we have to respect that. I think that there are good and bad people in every single corner of this globe. And we can't, as Rashid was saying earlier, we can't judge people based on a generality. You have to get to know people and make a judgment individually.
That's right.
Um, and I think that's necessary. So yeah, it was difficult for me. I still suffer with PTSD to this day, to be honest with you.
Wow.
And
Um,
sorry, Lavelle, have you got children?
I do. I do have children. I've got a son and a daughter from my first marriage, and then I have two. We call them bonus children, um, but they're like my own, and so it's total of two boys and two girls.
How old are they? The eldest?
The eldest is 32. The youngest is 24. She just
He's not
turned
in the military.
24.
Sorry, he's not in the
Uh,
military. He's not a soldier.
no, no, no. None
Would
of
you want
them
him to
wanted
become a
to.
soldier? Sorry,
Yes and no.
you don't have to
Yes,
answer
yes,
that question.
because of I hesitate because yes, because of the the benefits that you can have from serving in the US military, but no, because of the danger that's associated with it, the uncertainty that's associated with it. Um, and one of the things that is just it's the elephant in the room many times
Mm.
is that people who are minorities in their country typically go in the military, give their life for freedom, and then go home and get treated as less than a human in many cases. And we've got to change that. We've got to talk about equity for people. I know people say equality all the time, but I'm more about equity, that we need equity across the board and that people who serve their country should be afforded certain privileges and respect um, for volunteering to serve their country.
Very,
I
very
agree.
powerful. Very powerful. Thank you. Like we really appreciate you sharing that insight.
Thanks, Lavelle.
And we know that it's a very touchy subject, and I'm not sure how much you've spoken about this on your program. About what you're like. I haven't watched enough of your previous stuff to know what you've shared, but for us, that gives us a great insight and your opinion and personal experience. I mean, we've never fought. I fight with my wife now and then, but that's the only
You
fighting.
know, Lavelle, I grew up in overseas. I was raised in overseas in Afghanistan. I come from a city, you might be familiar with the name, from Mazar-e Sharif. I'm from the north.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I grew up, when I left the country, I was 17. So I came to Australia in 2003. I would have been, what, 19? So, yeah, I've experienced some, sometimes, our previous episodes are about war, and I spent a bit of time under Taliban's regime and saw some, you know, I can't even talk about it. There's executions and murders, and call them murders.